Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Market Minute. My mission is to help you better understand the latest trends in the U.S. real estate market and share with you my analysis and industry expertise. I want to help you gain an advantage and feel confident whenever you're buying and selling real estate. I'm your host, Mark Salib. I'm a passionate real estate professional, advisor, and investor, and I love what I do. Follow and DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group. Send me an email, mark@thesalibgroup.com. And as always, thank you for tuning in to today's show. All right, so everybody knows the big company, the moving company U-Haul. We've all at one point in our lives have rented a moving truck or van from U-Haul. And U-Haul releases one of the most interesting migration reports in the U.S. And what it tells us is where are Americans actually moving to. It's not a survey, it's not an opinion, it's just based on one-way U-Haul rentals. So this year, 5 metro areas stood above the rest. These are the top 5 metros, and as far as where people are moving to. And the big question is, if everyone is moving there, so are home prices going up because, well, so many people are moving there, so demand must be improving to the point where prices would be driven up by all that demand, right? Well, is that the case? Or actually have these markets become a different type of market? Well, I want to dive into it and explain. So it's called the U-Haul Growth Index, and it tracks one-way U-Haul arrivals versus departures, meaning more trucks arriving than leaving is a positive migration. And if many more are coming than leaving, then, well, that city tops the list. Now, here are and I like this, by the way, because it's a real world look at where people are actually physically relocating. All right, these are the top 5 growth metros, according to U-Haul. Number 1 is the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. Number 2, Houston, Texas, of course. Number 3, Austin, Texas. Number 4, Charlotte, North Carolina. And then rounding out the top 5 is Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I want to compare each one against what the housing market is actually doing there, because I think it's a pretty good lesson in understanding the dynamic of the housing market and not just chasing maybe where you think everybody's going to. All right, and here's why. Now, look at Dallas and Dallas-Fort Worth. Migration. Now, ranked number 1. But if you look at the housing market there, it's interesting. Dallas has actually seen home price weakness recently. In the latest Case-Shiller report, Dallas prices were down year over year 1.7%. So despite all that migration to Dallas, prices have actually softened. So why? Well, the case in Dallas is that there's a lot of new construction. There's a lot of new inventory in Dallas. So there's actually a little bit of pressure. And, with the higher mortgage rates, of course, that we already know about, and with that new construction and all that, well, prices actually haven't gone up despite all that demand because there's enough supply to absorb all the demand. Now look at Houston. Again, ranked number 2, Houston. Again, not nearly the same appreciation as some of the other markets that we talk about. How often we talk about the Midwest, right? And the appreciation in home values there. Not seeing it that much in Houston. And you know what? There's a lot of land there in Houston. There's a lot of building going on, a lot of new construction, a lot of supply, and it's keeping pace even better than all the demand and all the people moving there. Now, interesting point, population growth, right? It is interesting because what we're seeing here in these examples is a population growth doesn't automatically equal explosive home appreciation. It doesn't always work out that way. It certainly can, but it's still a demand-supply issue, right? You got to see where are we in supply. So Austin, Texas, number 3. All right, well, we know Austin was a huge, huge mover post-pandemic. But prices have definitely cooled dramatically from those highs. Austin, in fact, went through almost a mini correction where prices came down as much as 15, 20 to 25%. But there's still a lot of people moving into Austin. Again, but huge inventory growth also there in Austin. and just a normalization of a market after such enormous appreciation. And it's a great example, again, of migration continuing, but home prices are not necessarily continuing to move higher with that. Number 4, now Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte actually is doing pretty well. That's one of the healthier markets out there, and demand is outpacing supply. Now, inventory has increased in Charlotte, that's for sure, but one of the things with Charlotte is that affordability is still probably more favorable than a lot of other markets in the East Coast. And I think Charlotte is receiving a lot of that migration for that reason. I personally know a lot of people who are leaving places in South Florida that have become very expensive, such as Miami. And they're picking a place like Charlotte to migrate to for a more affordable lifestyle. All right, Phoenix. Now that one came in number 5. Again, great example. Phoenix, a lot like Austin in that way. Post-pandemic boom, normalized, corrected. And recently, Case-Shiller Index indicates that Phoenix prices are actually down 1.6% year over year. Again, migration is strong, but prices have also softened in Phoenix. So what do these 5 cities tell us? Well, migration alone is not enough. You also have to look at inventory, new construction, look at affordability, local incomes, right? Where are mortgage rates at? And some cities, you may see them continuing to appreciate, but others could flatten or even decline, even though people continue to move there at a rapid rate. And this data definitely lines up with the latest National Association of Realtors report. So, the strongest appreciation recently was not Texas or Arizona. It was mostly in the Midwest and the Northeast, right? So again, the point is migration and appreciation are not always in the same story. And you can see in a lot of these cities, it's not. I think buyers today, they do want value. I think investors today, I think they're just looking for good deals. They're not necessarily following where everybody's going. And that's once how it used to be, where people were all flocking to places like Austin and Miami and Tampa. And it was easy back then, Phoenix. And you could just sort of follow that because prices were rising, but it was an unexpected move. Big migration that suddenly happened post-COVID, right? There was not enough supply to handle such a big move like that, and I think now, as the years have gone on, supply is starting to catch up. All right, so don't, think, everyone's moving there. Ask also, is inventory rising? Is construction keeping up? Are prices even still appreciating? And is affordability improving or worsening? Migration is only one piece of the puzzle. People are still moving, though, to Dallas, Houston, Austin, Charlotte, Phoenix, but the housing market tells a little bit of a different story as far as home values. Home prices have flattened, even declined in some of these areas. Migration alone does not determine home prices. Supply, affordability, mortgage rates, inventory all matter too. And that's exactly why you got to look beyond the headline. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time.